AITA for involving HR, and choosing a 90-day separation instead of forgiving right away? I'm Ethan, 33, a data engineer. My job taught me two things. 1. Feelings are just early alerts. Logs are the facts. 2. If an error keeps repeating, the system is right. You're just looking in the wrong place. I never thought I'd one day apply those chilly rules to my marriage. Riley, my wife, 31, leads an account team at Horizon Creative. She's sharp, quick, the kind of energy that makes conference rooms feel less heavy. Since taking over a new account, her calendar's been like a legacy codebase, layers on layers, forever missing a time variable. I told myself I understood until one Monday night. That night, loading the washer, I picked up Riley's scarf. Soft, beige, the scent hit me immediately. Atlas Nocturne, something I've never worn. Warm, dark, pine, and leather. A man's cologne that didn't belong in this home. I stood still long enough for the washer to sound like surf. A smell isn't evidence, but it was the first red flag on the whiteboard in my head. Next day, a receipt appeared on the kitchen counter. La Meridia, the kind of place you book a week out. Table for two, dead center in the lunch hour. That evening, Riley said her online meeting ran long. Her smartwatch, which she loves, logged 9,800 steps between 1 and 3 p.m. I didn't render a verdict. I opened the whiteboard. Atlas Nocturne. Note. La Meridia. Note. Step spike. Note. The only certainty, our rhythm had slipped. That night, I rotated the Wi-Fi password. The real reason, a few sketchy SSIDs had popped up on our floor. I hate anyone borrowing our bandwidth. Next morning, Riley asked, "Why did the Wi-Fi kick me off?" I said I changed it for safety. She nodded. Longer than usual, then, "I've got an off-site with the team, probably home late." I said, I told Tess, my college friend, who keeps me from turning life into charts. "What do you want?" she asked over the phone. "The truth," I said, "but I don't want to turn the house into a courtroom." Tess said, "Write your boundaries. Speak in questions, not indictments. And if you two start to crater, bring a pro into the middle." Wednesday night, I made pasta. When Riley sat down, I placed 3 sheets, the La Meridia receipt, a step graph screenshot, and, yes, nerdy, a boundary sheet. I read slowly. "I'm not accusing you. I'm seeing A, B, C, and I feel unsafe. I want to know what's going on. I propose 1. Couples counseling. 2. 30 days of schedule transparency. Just event headers, locations. Already public. No content. 3, if needed. Separate rooms for a bit, so we can breathe." Riley looked at me, eyes dipping, then bracing. "Feels controlling." The word touched a thin place in me. I swallowed. I control systems, not people. I'm trying to control how I respond. No yelling, no accusations. "Help me with truth," she exhaled. It was just lunch with a client. The steps were from walking to clear my head. "I'm tired of being suspected," I nodded. "Heard. Can we try counseling?" She surprised me by agreeing. Dr. Lee's counseling room was small, full of plants, mint in the air. 5-minute no interruptions rule. I talked about fear, not of losing a person, but of losing myself in a maze of half-truths. Riley talked about feeling abandoned by my 1 a.m. nights at the keyboard. Dr. Lee didn't judge. She asked, "Will you both try 30 days of no contact with any destabilizing source?" I looked at Riley. She hesitated, then nodded. I nodded too. Dr. Lee printed a small pledge for us to sign. Week 1 of no contact felt like switching our hearts to battery saver. Riley's shower music drifted back to our old playlists. Bon Iver, The National. She texted me more, sending photos of the windowsill cat. I wanted to believe in a quiet shift. Then came Friday. Horizon's launch party. I went with her. Adrian Blake, creative director, 44, Salt and Pepper, walked in like the room dimmed out of respect. He shook my hand. "Ethan, right? Heard you're a data whisperer." I smiled. No whispering, just knowing when to restart. He laughed louder than necessary. 15 minutes later, Riley said, Adrian and I are running out to grab cake. The two of you? I asked. Yeah, it's close. Watch. 8:12, 8:26, 8:41, 8:58. I wanted to call, but I'd promised myself. No chasing in the moment, only logging. I went out to the lot to breathe. Mr. Patel, our downstairs neighbor, was there, invited because his grandkid freelances for Horizon. He winked. Your wife hopped into the boss's black SUV. Been a while. I thanked him and snapped the license plate under the trees. I texted Riley. I'm heading home. See you with Dr. Lee on Monday. That night, I didn't go through her phone or email. I opened the window and added to the boundary sheet. I will not turn myself into a stalker. I will speak with a third person present. If truth diverges from words, I will protect myself with process. I sat there until the streetlights went out of focus. Next morning, Riley texted, I got tipsy, sorry for making you wait. First cake shop was closed, so we detoured. I typed and deleted a lot. And finally, see you Monday with Dr. Lee. She sent a heart. I didn't heart back. 2 days later, truth arrived the way tech likes to. Cool, tidy. Since we'd trialed a family calendar to avoid missing anniversaries, Riley's Google Calendar had share free busy with me. Sunday night, a block appeared. Client workshop, off-site. Monday, 1 to 3 p.m. Not remarkable, until my phone pinged memories, Riley's Harbor Light Hotel elevator story. From a month ago, same time window as another off-site, the week I found the La Meridia receipt. 2 points in a line often suggest, well, a line. That lunch hour, I sat in a cafe across from Horizon's building, not tailing, just opened email and wrote politely to Ms. Nguyen, Horizon's head of HR. Hi, I'm Ethan, spouse of a Horizon employee. Could you share the policy on relationships with a power imbalance? Manager direct report. If an employee wants to disclose, ask something for their protection, what's the process? I'm not providing personal details. Thank you. I reread it 3 times to ensure it wasn't a weapon. It was a question. I sent it, closed my laptop. 2:20, Tess texted. Are you breathing? Me. Yes, evenly. That evening, Riley came home earlier than usual. She hugged me from behind. I booked your favorite ramen. Want to go? A part of me wanted to bury my face in her shoulder and forget. The other part, the one etched with boundaries, reminded me ramen warms a stomach, but lies don't dissolve like noodles. Monday with Dr. Lee, we revisited no contact. Riley said, I admit I've been too friendly, but I didn't cross. Dr. Lee proposed a signed 30-day no contact. No private messages outside necessary work. No one-on-ones after hours. I said yes. Riley hesitated, then yes. We signed. A week later, an email slid into our shared family inbox. Riley had forgotten to disable forward. Deck review. Harbor Light. 2 p.m. Sender. Adrian Blake. I checked timestamp. Location. No word in it proved an affair. One thing was clear. A violation of no contact. Riley herself had signed. I poured tea and let the steam fog my glasses. Reopened the email, reading it like a log. Which line is event? Which is noise? 1:47 p.m. Default ping. Invite accepted from Riley's account. I screenshotted, saved it in a folder named /notes. Not evidence. I was afraid a wrong file name would make it something else. Riley got home, reheated ramen, asked, Hungry? Yeah, I said, can we talk after? She glanced at me through steam. Boundaries again? The pledge we signed, I said quietly. There was an off-site invite from Adrian this afternoon. You accepted the ladle froze mid-air. It was just a deck review, she said. There were others. Maybe, I said. But we agreed. No one-on-ones, no private messages. And if any work contact could look messy, loop in a third person. You didn't loop me. You didn't loop Dr. Lee. I didn't think of it as contact, she said quickly. Work doesn't stop for paperwork. We wrote the paperwork for a reason, I said. She slammed the lid a little too hard. Why are you policing me? I'm policing the agreement. If you don't want it, say you don't. Don't pretend it doesn't exist, and then call me a control freak when I remember what we signed. Her eyes glossed, then cleared. I'm tired. Me too, I said. We ate in quiet. Mid-meal, she said. I'll email Dr. Lee. Ask her to define what counts as contact. Thank you, I said and meant it. Next morning, Ms. Nguyen replied, Thanks for asking. Horizon has a clear policy for relationships with power differentials. If an employee wants to disclose, the process is confidential and protective. You may share the policy link. If there are concerns, the person can contact me directly. A neat, reassuring PDF was attached. I forwarded the link to Riley. No commentary. 10 minutes later, she wrote, I'll read. Don't do anything rash. I wanted to reply that asking policy is the opposite of rash, but let it go. Friday afternoon, I was WFH when Ms. Nguyen called in a professional tone. I'd like to explain the process so you can relay it accurately. Horizon doesn't police love, she said, but if there's direct authority, they remove it. If undisclosed, they investigate. Employees are protected from retaliation. Understood, I said. Sunday, Riley asked to walk by the river. Cool wind. We sat on a bench. I read the policy, she said. And? If I tell HR, Adrian could get in trouble. If there's nothing, he won't, I said. If there is, that's not your fault. I don't want to ruin someone's career. I don't want you to ruin your own, I said gently. If you're in a spot where you can't say no, HR exists, so your no counts. She watched a gull on the railing. At first it wasn't like that, she said softly. At first, I echoed. At first it felt harmless, then exciting, then like a trap I built. I was mad at you for working late, and I wanted to feel chosen by someone. The bench tilted a little. I didn't speak, not because it didn't hurt, but because the words were facing the right way. I didn't go all the way, she said, cheeks warm, even in the wind. But I crossed lines, texts, lingered in the car, held eye contact too long, and once, touching. A part of me wanted to assign points and make it binary, but life isn't a compiler, it's a float. Thank you for telling me, I said. How do you want to proceed? I'll tell Dr. Lee everything, she said. And I'll tell HR, there's a boundary problem. I'll request a transfer. What about no contact? I asked. I broke it, she said. I'll re-sign it. For real this time, we drove home. In a silence that wasn't empty, like a snowfield. White, cold, capable. Next morning, 10:12, Ms. Nguyen texted. Thanks for your earlier inquiry. To protect everyone, we're temporarily reassigning your wife to a parallel team and removing Mr. Blake's approval authority during a standard review. Can't share more. In other words, lower the heat before it boils over. That night, I got an unknown call. Mr. Ethan, courtesy notice, Mr. Blake will be on leave for an internal matter. We appreciate your discretion. I didn't ask more. I logged, guardrails in place. Dr. Lee squeezed us in that afternoon. Riley confessed with specifics, texts, car, looks, one touch. Dr. Lee asked me, where is your anger? Like a fire I'm not feeding, I said. Fires starved go out, Dr. Lee said, but embers smolder. Smolder can ruin a house quietly. What do you do with the smoke? Journal, run, hydrate, talk to Tess, I said. And I'm deciding whether I can, or should, stay married to someone who wanted to be chosen by someone else. Riley, small. I wanted to be chosen by you. I believe you, I said. But at some point you wanted it on a timeline I couldn't meet, and you outsourced it. Dr. Lee laid out a fork. Option A, structured 90-day separation. Individual therapy, financial safety plan, conditions for reconnection. Option B, amicable divorce, while we're still kind. Neither is wrong, she said. Both take courage. Riley, I choose A. Full transparency, permanent no contact, share calendar headers, joint access to our financial advisor. Not romantic, but it's not about romance, I said. It's trust architecture. And you? Dr. Lee asked. I choose A, I said, but I'm choosing it for peace, not penance. If it ever serves punishment more than peace, I'll pivot to B. We signed the plan, 90 days. Separate rooms, or separate housing if needed. No new joint financial obligations. Weekly individual, bi-weekly couples. No contact with Adrian forever. Any handover HR mediated. Calendar transparency, limited to headers and locations. Weekly check-in. What served peace this week? What didn't? That night, I moved into the living room. Strange how the streetlight made a rhombus on the wall I'd never noticed. Maybe because I'd always faced the other way. At dawn, I ran the park loop, made coffee, drank water, and opened no apps. The boring miracles started like that. Week 1 of separation taught me that silence has textures. There's the soft kind, morning quiet, kettle whisper, the little clink when a spoon finds the side of a mug, and there's the brittle kind, where every sound feels like a test, a drawer closing, anger or gravity, a sigh, regret, or lungs doing their job. I learned to ask less and log more. Coffee, run, work, water, stretch, journal, repeat. A life that could fit in a backpack if it had to. Tuesday afternoon, I met Tess on a park bench. She handed me a coffee like a medic handing over gauze. Vitals, she said. Stable, I said, with occasional arrhythmia. She tucked one foot under her. Talk to me about anger. It feels like a stuck hotkey, I said. It fires even when I haven't pressed anything. So I'm keeping my hands off the keyboard. That sounds like avoidance, she said gently. It's deliberate, I said. Avoidance with logs. Tess smiled without approving or disapproving. Boundaries aren't only saying no to someone else, she said. They're saying yes to yourself. What's your yes? The answer surprised me by appearing. Peace, I said. I want to eat ramen without reading symptoms into broth. Then build a life that serves that, she said. Not revenge, not winning, peace. That night, Riley and I watched half an episode of a show we used to binge. We didn't talk during the credits. We didn't kiss goodnight. I lay awake thinking about the difference between forgiving and forgetting, and how often people try to use one as counterfeit for the other. Wednesday Ms. Nguyen sent a short mail, a reminder of confidential channels, and an invitation to reach out if anything feels unsafe. The wording was bland. The effect wasn't. The system had eyes. Guardrails weren't theory. On Thursday, Dr. Lee gave us homework. Each draft, a one-sentence mission statement. It felt corny until I wrote mine. I build systems that protect gentleness. I didn't know I believed that until the words existed outside me. Riley read hers aloud, cheeks coloring. I show up for the truth, especially when it shrinks me before it grows me. She winced and left it anyway. By Friday, rumors leaked like steam from a pot, left a little off-center on the burner. A junior designer posted something vague about power dynamics and integrity over convenience. Another posted a meme about cake runs. They didn't name names. The comments did algebra. HR must have tapped the brakes because the posts vanished, but not before spawning screenshots with the half-life of plutonium. I expected rage. What I felt was a dull pity, not righteous pity that floats you above a crowd, just the kind you feel when you pass a house you used to admire, and it's a charred shell with caution tape. You don't know what burned first. You just smell ash. Saturday morning, by the mailboxes, Mr. Patel squinted at me over his bifocals. You two okay? He asked, dropping his voice like empathy requires a different volume. We're working on it, I said. He patted my shoulder with grandfatherly authority. Can't unscramble an egg, he said, but you can make French toast. I nodded like I understood the exact recipe. Sunday night, an email slid into our shared inbox. Subject line, apology. From Adrian Blake. CC, HR. The body was scrubbed within an inch of its life. Ethan, this is to acknowledge my role in creating a boundary failure under my leadership. I apologize to you and to Riley. I'll comply with all restrictions and will only contact through HR for necessary handover. I wish you both healing. I read it twice. The CCS were the point. He wasn't courting redemption. He was building a paper wall around himself. It didn't fix harm, but it lowered risk. I forwarded it to my personal account and filed it under /notes/guardrails/not to reread, just to timestamp the day the fire department finally showed up. We held our first weekly check-in at the dining table we never used. Dr. Lee's script was on my phone. What served peace this week? What didn't? Riley went first. Peace, HR putting boundaries in writing. The apology, even if it read like a press release. Not peace. Every time I see you, look away first. I nodded. Peace, running. Water. The way we can sit here without yelling. Not peace. My reflex to inventory you like a crime scene. I hate that reflex. I don't want a marriage where detection is the main skill. Riley nodded back, slow. I hate that I trained you into that. Week 2, Doctor. Lee asked us to role-play an ordinary disagreement. Not infidelity, she said. Something like chores or finances. And to practice fighting well. We chose money because saints fight about money. We took turns saying needs without verdicts. I need an emergency fund so I don't panic when a tire blows. I need a generosity category because stingy makes me mean. We weren't elegant. We were tender. I'll take tender. Midweek, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. A calm voice asked me to confirm I'd received the apology and the HR memo, establishing the new reporting structure. We're ensuring everyone has the same copy, the voice said. The subtext was, the lanes are painted. Stay in yours. That evening I found Riley on the couch, face blotchy from crying. HR moved me, she said. Adrian's not allowed to contact me, except through Ms. Nguyen. Are you safe? I asked. She nodded. It feels like I tattled. It feels like you asked for a lifeguard, I said. That's different. I hate that I needed one, she whispered. Needing one is not a moral failure, I said. It's just drowning math. In the second Sunday check-in, Riley surprised me by asking, if we do reconcile, what would that actually look like for you? She didn't want slogans. She wanted logistics. We don't pretend this never happened, I said. We write our own post-incident report and keep it where we can see it. For a year, we keep couple sessions on the calendar like dental cleanings. We schedule joy on purpose. A class, a trip, a project that isn't about fixing us. We practice telling small truths fast before they calcify. And we accept there will be days we don't want to be married, and we don't panic about that. We call it weather. Riley sat with that. For me, she said, it looks like building a life where I don't need an audience to feel real. Less performance, more presence. It looks like sleeping next to you, knowing I didn't barter with my integrity that day. And, she swallowed, it looks like you trusting me with sharp things again. Not literally, I mean trust for tools that can hurt if used badly. Knives are useful, I said. So is caution. Week 3, I moved to a month-to-month studio a few blocks away. Dr. Lee had suggested real space might let us see the architecture better, the way stepping back lets you see a building instead of a brick. I packed a light, laptop, a suitcase, the notebook where I'd been journaling, and a bag of oranges a neighbor insisted came from his cousin's yard. Riley helped carry a box to the elevator. We didn't kiss goodbye. I'll make this count, she said. Make it count for you, I said. If you make it count for me, we'll both resent it. Living alone reintroduced me to myself in petty, unsightly ways. No one moved my towel. No one finished the milk. No one asked, want to watch something? And then fell asleep in 11 minutes. My grief was extremely organized, stacked itself in neat piles, labeled itself, tried to be helpful. I let it, then made a mess on purpose, left a book open, ate cereal from the box, played a song too loud, and turned it down when my own heart flinched. In therapy, Dr. Lee asked, "What does forgiveness mean to you? Definition subject to change?" "It means I stop trying to collect interest," I said. "It doesn't mean I reopen the line of credit." "And trust?" she said. "Trust is slow code," I said. "You don't copy-paste it. You write it line by line and test every branch." End of week 3, Ms. Nguyen sent a crisp note. "Interim measures remain in effect. Review ongoing. Please continue to route concerns through HR. No drama, just a drip of certainty." By week 4, the rumor mill had found a new toy, and we were boring again. I hadn't checked Riley's location once, not out of sainthood, out of disinterest. My nervous system was learning to stop standing watch on a cold fire ring. Riley and I kept the weekly check-ins, even when there was nothing spicy to report. We started calling them State of Us, bi-monthly, and Joy Friday, alternating weeks. Joy Friday forbade repair talk. Once we made dumplings, and half of mine looked like sea urchins that had seen some things. Once we walked in the rain on purpose. Once we tried pottery, my bowl looked like a topographical map of failure, and Riley's looked like a bowl. We laughed in the way people laugh when they recognize themselves and decide not to be cruel. Week 5, an apology email to me personally, uncc'd, arrived from Adrian. It was shorter, less laundered, probably drafted and then redrafted by legal anyway. "I'm sorry, full stop." I didn't reply. I didn't forward it. I dragged it into /notes/guardrails, with the rest. Not to keep a shrine, to close the loop. That weekend, I finally posted to Reddit. AITA, not a revenge sub, not relationship drama. I wrote the facts, minus brands, minus gossip, plus boundaries, HR, no contact, structured separation. I asked AITA for not forgiving quickly and for choosing systems where romance used to be. The top comment said, "You're not an AH for protecting your peace. You're a person doing boring, holy work. I didn't know strangers could bless you like that." Week 6, Riley texted, "Dr. Lee asked me to build a timeline disclosure. Would you read it? Not to check me, but to help me not leave holes, because I'm scared." There was a version of me that would weaponize that request, circle dates in red like a prosecutor. The version I'm trying to be wrote back, "Yes, send when ready." Her document arrived plain and unornamented. It started at first felt flattered and did not spare humiliating nouns. Lingering, stairs, messages, car, hotel, almost. She didn't invoke accident or temporary insanity. She named boredom and resentment like weather systems she'd chosen to stand in without an umbrella. At the end she wrote, "I kept the key card because I wanted a token that proved I could be wanted on demand. I threw it out because I want to be wanted without hiding. I suggested one addition, not another sin, just the no-contact violating email, because accountability is a muscle you work until it becomes memory." She added it without argument. That Sunday, we tried Dr. Lee's 2-part check-in question again. What did you notice about yourself? What did you admire in the other? I noticed I didn't flinch when Riley's phone lit up. I admired how she said, "I need 5 minutes," and then took them without apology. She noticed she didn't perform contrition. She admired that I laughed at a dumb pun and didn't apologize for joy. On Monday, Ms. Nguyen's final review note landed. Mr. Blake is demoted and reassigned to a non-managerial role in a different office. Training and probationary measures in place. Continue to route concerns through HR. It felt like a door clicking shut 2 rooms away. That night, I stood at the studio window looking over a slice of river. The cat from our building, no collar, claims multiple apartments, appeared on my fire escape like he'd scheduled office hours. I let him in. He head-butted my wrist with managerial confidence and lay down in the warm rectangle on the rug. Some creatures do peace without paperwork. Friday, Riley asked, "What would our runbook look like?" She meant, if we tried to rebuild, could we write something down we'd actually use? Yes, I said, facts first. Then triggers and protocols. Then maintenance windows. Then, KPIS, KPIS, she laughed. Fewer fights about process. More conversations about meaning, I said. Spontaneous tenderness without pre-approval. Sleep that isn't an enemy, we penciled a time to write it, not a ceremony, a maintenance task. Saturday I jogged in a rain that forgot how to stop. Back at the studio, I made eggs that didn't have to do any narrative work. My phone buzzed. A photo from Riley. The trash can with the hotel keycard half buried under coffee grounds. No caption. I replied with a period. It meant received. It meant logged. It meant okay. By the end of the 6th week, the boring miracles had a cadence. I could be happy for an hour without needing a reason. I corrected a bodega owner who miscounted change in my favor, and he handed me a banana with Boy Scout with a beard, and I felt fine. Tess and I stopped dead to watch a hawk sit on a lamppost like a bored god, and I let myself believe in omens for exactly 1 minute. The world didn't end. The world rarely ends. It just asks you to choose your next small right thing. Week 7 began with the document. We didn't light candles or play soft music. We opened a shared Google Doc at the dining table and titled it Half as a Joke and Half as a Dare. Post-Incident Report, VOA 1.0. Under it, a second header, Garden Plan 1.0. I handled the scaffolding, sections, bullets, timestamps. Riley picked the font, something that doesn't pretend it's a wedding invitation. Scope and facts, dates and numerals, not adjectives. Behaviors without spin, private messages outside work hours, rides to and from events, lingering in cars, off-site invite, accepted during no contact, one instance of physical touch. Across the page, I added mine, chronic late-night work, using procedure as a shield against intimacy, sarcasm where curiosity should have been. Dr. Lee had warned us, if a report only wounds one person, it's not a report, it's a weapon. Contributing factors, lowercase on purpose, fatigue, novelty hunger, resentment, blurred boundaries, approval seeking, conflict avoidance, loneliness in cluttered calendars. We refused to uppercase anything. Capitals make excuses sound like facts. Immediate remediations, complete. HR reassignment and removal of managerial authority. No contact in perpetuity. Any necessary work relay. HR mediated. Weekly individual therapy. Bi-weekly couples therapy. Scheduled as standing appointments. Structured separation active. Day 41 when we wrote it. Triggers and protocols. I made it like a runbook. Trigger. Late meetings. Drinks after work. Ambiguous off-site. Protocol. Put it on the calendar 24 hours ahead with headers only. Send one sentence to partner. Work, not workaround. If partner replies with a boundary, e.g., cab home by 10. Treat as a requirement, not a suggestion. Trigger. Elevator colognes, hotel lobbies, songs with attached brews. Protocol. Name it within 24 hours. No penalty for naming. No points for stoicism. Trigger. The internet discovers a fresh way to be clever about old pain. Protocol. Screens down. Water. 15-minute walk. Text. Not today meme. Reply. Not today. Trigger. Urge to snoop. Protocol. Write the urge down. Wait 1 hour. If it persists, ask directly. If denied, log it and bring it to therapy. Do not investigate. Maintenance windows. 2 recurring blocks. State of us, every other Sunday, and Friday joy, alternating Fridays. Repair talk forbidden. Friday. Joy's only rule. It exists to build what isn't broken. K. P. I.S. We kept the joke. Fewer process fights, more meaning conversations. Spontaneous tenderness without pre-approval. Laughter without apology. Sleep that honors the nervous system. Plans that extend beyond the next crisis. We printed a copy and taped it inside a cabinet like fire instructions. Unsexy on purpose. Okay, Riley said, breathing a little like she'd just finished a hill. What's garden plan actually look like? Phased reconnection, I said, like bringing a server back under load. Phase 1, weeks 7 to 9. Same apartment, separate rooms, shared meals 3 nights a week. No physical intimacy, yes to kindness. Strict calendar transparency. Headers. HR guardrails intact. Weekly bi-weekly therapy. Cadence maintained. Early ping rule. Say dread before it turns into distance. Phase 2, weeks 10 to 13. 2 sleepovers per week in the same room. Time, boxed goodnights. Resume, gentle rituals. Sunday pancakes, midweek walk. Maintain all Phase 1 guardrails. Phase 3, weeks 14 to 16. Retire the guest room as default. Keep 1 night a week apart for separate lives on purpose. Plan a small trip not designed to test us, only to host us. Roll back if we slam into the wall. I added, this is a tool, not a god. She nodded. I can live with tools. The first Phase 1 dinner was pasta and a salad that tried too hard. The cat held arbitration court by napping between our knees so that any accidental bump had to be gentle. We washed dishes like competent roommates auditioning for a commercial. It felt ceremonial without requiring a speech. Our next state of us, Dr. Lee asked us to answer 2 questions. What did you notice about yourself? What did you admire in the other? Notice is kinder than judge. Admire isn't worship, it's naming. I noticed I didn't scan Riley's phone face down like a crime scene prop. I admired how she said, I need 5 minutes, and actually took them. She noticed she didn't perform contrition. She admired that I could laugh without apologizing for it. Midweek, a stress test. A client dinner ran long. Riley texted at 6:12. Dinner with client, would later. Work, not work around. Cab home by 10? I replied. Yes, 10 hard stop. At 10:03, a photo of a taxi meter. It wasn't proof of virtue. It was evidence of alignment. I breathed like my chest had more space in it than before. We fought for the first time about something boring. Money. I wanted a fat emergency fund so a popped tire wouldn't feel like a referendum on adulthood. Riley wanted a robust generosity line because stingy makes me mean. We overshot the curbs, raised our voices, then remembered the mission statements and returned to nouns, numbers, time frames, categories. We ended with a budget that wasn't a victory lap, but wasn't a battlefield either. After, we walked to get ice cream, because children sometimes know how to end a meeting. By the end of week 8, the HR review concluded. Ms. Nguyen's note. Mr. Blake demoted and reassigned to a non-managerial role at a different office, training and probation in place. No gloating came, just a quiet click, the sound of a door shutting 2 rooms away. Riley printed the memo and stuck it beneath the guardrails folder, then looked at me, a question in her face. Do we cheer? I shook my head. We watered the pothos instead. Friday joy, that week, was a pottery class in a basement that smelled like clay and near victories. My bowl looked like a lunar crater system. Riley's looked like a bowl. She reached across the wheel and dabbed my nose with slip like a cartoon, then immediately checked my eyes as if to apologize preemptively. I smiled. Green light, I said, and she smiled back, relieved that joking was allowed on this planet again. Week 9, a small test of exposure therapy. We met a client at the Harbor Light for a daytime strategy session. Neutral ground, glass atrium, 0 bedrooms. Dr. Lee knew, HR knew, and we went in with clean calendars. The elevator smelled like eucalyptus and lobby carpet, not like Atlas Nocturne. I didn't die. Later that night, the urge to debrief in forensic detail tugged at me. I wrote it down, waited an hour, then asked Riley only, anything you need me to know? That you can ask me questions like a human, she said gently, and that was enough. At State of Us that Sunday, we added a small line to the run book, permission to call a pause. If either of us felt the conversation was serving penance more than peace, we could say pause for peace, step away, drink water, and return in 20 minutes without losing posture. It sounded hokey on paper. In practice, it saved us twice that week. Halfway through phase 1, Riley asked, "Do you want to move back into the bedroom in phase 2?" I realized the answer wasn't a simple yes. "I want to," I said, "and I want the reason to be we're building, not that we're tired of walking between rooms." She nodded. "Agreed." We marked phase 2 with a tiny ritual. I brought my pillow back like a traveler returning with nothing dramatic to declare. The first night we lay very still, like kids at a sleepover who don't know if they're allowed to whisper. The cat, bored, curled into a comma at our feet. "Hi," she said into the dark. "Hi," I answered. We slept. No thunder, no Shakespeare. Blessedly boring. We reopened Sunday pancakes. Riley burned the first batch and laughed, head thrown back in a way I hadn't seen in months. I didn't take a picture. Some things are for memory, not for cameras. I returned to the office more days than not and shipped a small feature that no one would notice until it saved an afternoon. Quiet code is my favorite kind. It reminded me that good marriages, when they work, are like background services, unseen, steady. The reason the visible things don't crash. Riley changed teams again, not running from a past, but toward work that didn't mainline adrenaline. She came home with stories about literacy grants and rainfall sensors instead of bar tabs. Her playlists got weird in the good way, less anthem, more private song. There was a lightness in her that didn't ask to be clapped for. We tripped once. A friend of a friend at a party made a cake run joke. My chest clicked. The micro-panic rose. I put my palm flat on the table, a trick Dr. Lee taught me to give my body a surface to push back against. Riley caught my eye, mouthed, "Not today?" I nodded. We changed the subject to someone's terrible fantasy football team. The moment passed like weather. Mid-phase 2, Dr. Lee gave us a strange assignment: read letters to future us while sitting back to back, not making eye contact. I wrote, "If you're reading this because you're tired, tired is not a verdict. It's a vital sign. Do something gentle and small. Heat soup, water a plant. Leave the room before you break the thing you'll have to fix later." Riley wrote, "If you're reading this because you want to be chosen, choose yourself first. Then ask Ethan. If he can't, choose friends, a nap, a walk, a poem, calling your mother back. Don't choose crisis." We titled the folder Peace Docs and tucked the letters inside, alongside the report and run book. The first time we were physically intimate again, it was like testing a repaired bridge. Start with bicycles, then a slow car. We named parameters like dorks and laughed when the cat insisted on performing a surprise inspection mid-scene. Later, a tear came out of nowhere. We paused. No drama. We resumed when it made sense, not to prove anything, just to enjoy being animals with careful brains. At the edge of phase 3, we took our first overnight trip. A cheap train to a small town with nothing to recommend it, but a bookstore that also sold honey and postcards from 1987. We ate sandwiches by a lake and mailed a card to ourselves that said, "You are somewhere peaceful. Make it a habit." On the train back, we made fun of the mysterious town mascot, a beaver wearing a crown. Why? And fell asleep shoulder to shoulder, heads bobbing in unison when the car hit a seam in the tracks. Back home, we retired the guest room. We kept one night a week apart on purpose. Tess on Tuesdays with me for a run, Riley on Thursdays for book club or unstructured quiet. Together is easier when together isn't the only option. One evening, as I was taking out the trash, I found the old blue scarf that had kicked off my internal audit months ago. Riley saw it in my hand and smiled with a little wince. "Retire it?" she asked. "Retire it," I agreed. We didn't burn it. Fire makes drama out of disposal. We dropped it at a donation bin. It turned into someone else's accessory instead of our symbol. I prefer demotions to exorcisms. We sat that night and moved post-incident report, V1.0, to read only in the Peace Docs. Not a shrine, not a threat. Just audit history. We left garden plan version 1.0 up inside the cabinet because gardens require reminders more than warnings. On a walk, Riley asked, "Do you trust me?" She meant a particular kind of trust, the one that doesn't require guardrails to be visible to exist. I took my time. "Yes," I said finally, testing the rail with my weight like a person on a newly repaired balcony. Trust isn't a mood for me right now. It's a schedule. It's not needing your location to match your story, and knowing that if I asked, you'd show me, and that I haven't needed to ask." She squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she said. I said, "Me too, because gratitude is a two-way street, even when you're the one who stayed up with the road crew." At the 90-day mark, Dr. Lee brought us back to the fork we'd chosen from. Reconnect or part kindly. We didn't answer in her office. We took the question home like an unlit candle and sat with it for a weekend, doing ordinary things, laundry, groceries, arguing lightly about whether cilantro tastes like cilantro or soap. We remain a mixed household. Sunday evening, we returned to the river bench. The gull was there, unimpressed by our symbolism. "I choose A," Riley said, meaning rebuild. "Even if you don't, I'll keep the practices. They make me someone I like." "I choose A," I said, "on one condition. This serves peace, not penance. If either of us starts keeping score, we pivot to B with dignity." "Deal," she said. We shook on it like nerds. We kissed like people who understood why the handshake came first. We walked home slowly. In the lobby, Mr. Patel watered the fern with surgical focus. "Well," he said, "because at 80, he has no use for small talk." "We're going to try," I said. He nodded like we'd passed inspection. "French toast," he said. "Takes practice." We laughed and rode the elevator up. The kind of laugh you can only do when your lungs have finally stopped bracing. Week 11 tasted like ordinary life, which I had missed without knowing I missed it. We argued about where the spatulas go. I'm pro drawer left of the stove. Riley is pro jar on the counter like it's a bouquet. And then we laughed because arguing about spatulas is a luxury. The cat declared neutrality by sprawling across both options. Riley started leaving tiny flags of transparency on the calendar without fanfare. Client drinks, work, not workaround. 6 to 8, home by 9:45. Twice she got home at 9:52. The first time I felt the old tightness pinch. I wrote it down, waited an hour, and asked, "Traffic or mission creep?" "Bartender ghosted the check," she said. "I'll pad next time." On the calendar, she edited the future entries. Home by 10 o'clock, buffered. It looked like such a small thing. That was the point. We shipped our runbook to paper. We stuck post-incident report version 1.0 and garden plan version 1.0 in a manila folder labeled Peace Docs and slid it into the cabinet next to the warranties and the fire extinguisher instructions. Peace, like safety, is mostly unglamorous laminates. One afternoon, Tess swung by with coffee and a grin that meant trouble or wisdom or both. "Status report," she said. "Stable," I said. "Occasional tremors, improving latency." She pointed at the cabinet. "You printed the feelings." "We made a manual," I said. "People don't read manuals," she said, "but they're comforted to know they exist." We walked to the park. Tess tossed crusts to pigeons like casting fortune. "Does any part of you miss the storm?" she asked carefully. I thought about it. "The storm made my blood feel important," I said. "Peace makes my breath feel honest." "I'll take breath." She nodded. "Good. Also, you ran out of pseudo-poetic metaphors at breath feels honest, so I'm officially proud." That night we cooked together. Riley chopped. I stirred. The sizzle and clink made a kind of kitchen song that used to be background noise and now sounded like a live performance. "I told my mom," Riley said, sliding onions into the pan. "A version that didn't make you the villain." She cried, then asked for Dr. Lee's number. "Big day," I said softly. "Big day," she echoed, then added, "I'm sorry, Ethan." She'd said it before, but this one landed differently. No invoice attached, no angle, just a complete sentence. I put a hand on her shoulder. Thank you, I said. For the record, I'm sorry too, for the way I hid in work and called it virtue. She squeezed my fingers. For the record, thank you. When the meal was done, we sat on the floor and ate off the coffee table, like college kids, knees touching. The cat watched us with managerial suspicion. Two employees, attempting to socialize on company time. We kept Friday joy. One week, it was a thrift store expedition with a $5 limit and a goal to make the other laugh. Riley found a tiny framed cross-stitch that read, "Be nice or leave," in pink thread. I found a ceramic swan with a chip that made it look like it had a story. We put the cross-stitch inside the cabinet door with the garden plan as a private joke. We gave the swan to the pathos as a guardian. The cat ignored both, which felt like a blessing. At work, I shipped another quiet feature, the kind people only notice when it fails. It didn't fail. Unnoticed felt like an award. On the train home, I wrote a note to myself: build invisible things that prevent avoidable pain. I didn't specify whether I meant code or marriage. It didn't matter. The principle travels. We met Ms. Nguyen once more, not in a conference room, but in a mellow video call where no one wore a blazer. Officially, she said. Case closed. Policies clarified company-wide. If you ever need a refresher on options, my door's digital. We thanked her. After the call, Riley said, I thought HR was only there to fire people. Turns out, I said, they're also licensed lifeguards. Dr. Lee, at our next session, asked each of us for a sentence future US could overhear and benefit from. Riley said, I learned to choose truth faster than attention. I said, I learned to keep systems as servants, not kings. Dr. Lee nodded. Fold those into the manual, she said, or at least tape them to the inside of your skulls. So we did both. We printed the sentences in small type and slid them into the cabinet. We also scribbled them on sticky notes and stuck them where only we could see, behind the bathroom mirror, inside my laptop lid, under the spice rack. Tiny reminders on the path where drift happens. Triggers still mailed themselves to us, with no return address. In the lobby, a stranger passed wearing something that could have been Atlas Nocturne. My body ran a silent diagnostic, and then paged no one. Online, a joke about cake runs floated by. My thumb hovered, then scrolled past like it was moving trash to a bin I didn't need to open. A colleague asked Riley about that whole situation at a happy hour. Riley said, we don't discuss it. And the colleague nodded and changed the subject. Boundary respected. No fireworks. The rarest kind of victory. At the 3-month mark, our agreed evaluation, we ordered takeout and sat at the table with the cat under our chairs as if to weigh our ankles. The question wasn't, are we cured? The question was, does this serve peace? We both said yes. A quiet yes with footnotes. We retired the living room bedroll. We kept Thursday nights as separate on purpose. We did not declare ourselves experts. We declared ourselves participants. A week later, I opened Reddit and posted an update, not because the internet owed us closure, but because strangers had written me kind paragraphs in a storm. I wrote, update. We chose the slow rebuild. HR guardrails, no contact, counseling, 90-day structured separation. We wrote a report instead of a manifesto. We built a garden plan instead of a fortress. We are still married. We are still two people. Some days are weather. We have umbrellas. Verdict requested? Not the point. Better question. Does this serve peace? For us today, yes, comments were kinder than most news feeds. Thank you for making the boring work visible. Peace practices greater than punishment rituals. One said simply, water your plant. We did. Spring wandered in like it wasn't sure it was invited. The pathos sent out a new leaf, like a little green debate settling in favor of life. The cat discovered a sun rectangle on the rug and wrote his memoir in naps. Riley's playlists found their odd groove. I ran in a light rain and didn't interpret it. On a Saturday morning, that felt playful for no reason. We took a bus to the farmer's market with Tess. She bought radishes because they looked like applause. We ate them with salt in the park, grinning at each other like we'd won something smaller and better than a prize. Time without dread. Do you trust her? Tess asked quietly as we watched a toddler chase a pigeon with diplomatic incompetence. Yes, I said. I tested the word like a railing. Right now, trust is not a feeling for me. It's a schedule. It's the fact that I didn't open an app to confirm her location, and the knowledge that if I asked, she'd show me, and the reality that I haven't needed to ask. Tess bumped my shoulder with hers. Good, she said. Also, please eat a vegetable that isn't beige. I bit into a radish. It tasted like red had a personality. We did one last thing, privately, the kind of ritual you don't post. We wrote the words, deprecated. Cake runs on a scrap of paper and folded it into the pea stalks. No fire, no drama, just versioning. We joked about release notes, added spontaneous forehead kisses while waiting for the kettle. Improved, listening latency. Fixed. A bug where silence defaulted to dread instead of rest. Deprecated cake runs. We laughed, and it didn't sound nervous. It sounded like laughter. Months later, past the narrative arc, somewhere in the life that stories usually skip, I caught Riley watching me make coffee like it was a tiny miracle. What? I asked. Nothing, she said, smiling. Everything. She walked over, put her hands on my shoulders, and kissed me in the soft way that belongs to people who aren't auditioning. The kettle clicked. The cat complained about tardy breakfast. The pothos leaned toward the light. If you want a moral, I don't have one that fits on a mug. I have a run book, a garden plan, some sticky notes, and a plant that forgives forgetful people. I have a marriage that isn't a miracle, but is made of choices. Boring, holy ones, repeated until they become weather. On good days, we say, this serves peace. On bad days, we check again. On most days, we water the plant. AITA. Maybe that was never the right question. Maybe the right question is the one that built us a life. Does this serve peace? Today, still yes, and tomorrow we'll check again.